The Late Show with Stephen Colbert has built its reputation on sharp wit, biting satire, and a steady stream of political banter. Viewers tune in expecting Colbert to mix comedy with critique, skewering public figures with a smile while keeping the audience laughing. But no one expected the night's guest, rising conservative firebrand Karoline Leavitt, to provide one of the most explosive and uncomfortable exits the show had ever seen. Leavitt, a former White House press aide and outspoken political commentator, walked onto the stage with practiced poise. Dressed in a tailored navy dress, she carried herself with confidence, smiling politely as the studio audience offered a cautious mix of applause and murmurs. Colbert greeted her warmly enough, but the energy was different, tense, anticipatory. The first few minutes followed the usual rhythm. Colbert teased her about her rapid rise in Republican politics. She countered with quick, polished lines about her passion for restoring America's values, and the crowd responded with scattered applause, though some groans punctuated the jokes. But then Colbert shifted gears. Leaning across his desk, he asked, "Karoline, you've made a career out of fiery soundbites, but do you actually believe what you say, or are you just auditioning for cable news primetime?" The question drew a sharp laugh from the audience. Leavitt's smile faltered. "I believe every word I say, Stephen," she replied firmly. "Unlike some hosts who make a living out of mocking half the country, I'm not here to play games. I'm here to talk about the issues real Americans care about." The audience booed lightly. Colbert smirked. From there, the tone grew sharper. Colbert pressed her on controversial statements she'd made about abortion, climate change, and the media. Each time, Leavitt pushed back harder, her voice tightening, her composure strained. Then came the moment that turned the segment into a firestorm. Colbert, half grinning, half serious, leaned forward. "You know, Karoline, some of your talking points sound, let's just say, recycled. Almost like they come straight out of a certain ex-president's playbook. Do you ever get tired of being someone else's echo chamber, or is parroting explicit slogans your idea of leadership?" The audience erupted in laughter, but the word explicit landed with weight. Leavitt's expression froze, her cheeks flushing as she sat back in her chair. "That's insulting," she snapped. "You're twisting my words, degrading my ideas, and frankly, I don't have to sit here while you reduce serious issues to punchlines." The laughter faded. The tension was real now. Colbert opened his mouth to respond, but Leavitt was already rising from her chair. "You invited me here for an interview, not a circus," she said, her voice cutting through the stunned audience. "If this is what late-night TV has become, mockery and vulgarity, I'm done." And with that, she stormed off the stage, the cameras catching her brisk stride toward the wings as the audience gasped, booed, and cheered all at once. Colbert sat frozen for a moment before finally breaking into a wide grin. "Well," he quipped, "guess I'll be saving that chair for someone who likes a little comedy with their conversation." The crowd laughed, but the shock lingered. A political rising star had just walked out, live on late-night television, after one of the most combative interviews in Colbert's tenure. The fallout was only beginning. The moment Karoline Leavitt stormed off the Late Show stage, social media lit up like a bonfire. Within minutes, clips of her sharp exchange with Stephen Colbert spread across X, Instagram, and TikTok, each post drawing millions of views. The hashtags #Leavitt storms off and #Colbert clash dominated trending lists by the early hours of the morning. The internet was quick to take sides. Conservative commentators hailed Leavitt's walk-off as an act of courage. Karoline stood her ground against Colbert's smug arrogance, one popular right-wing podcaster wrote. She refused to play along with his late-night circus. Respect. Supporters circulated slowed-down clips of her final words, "I'm done," overlaid with patriotic music and the caption, "A fighter." On the other side, liberal voices mocked the meltdown. "If you can't handle a few jokes from Colbert," one MSNBC contributor tweeted, "how are you going to handle global diplomacy?" Memes proliferated. One showed Leavitt running offstage photoshopped into a NASCAR pit stop, another replaced her with a cartoon character storming away in exaggerated fashion. Meanwhile, the mainstream press dove in with gusto. Headlines splashed across the morning cycle. Karoline Leavitt abruptly ends Colbert interview after heated exchange. Late-night drama. Leavitt walks out, Colbert shrugs it off. Polarizing conservative sparks viral clash with Stephen Colbert. Inside CBS, producers were reportedly stunned. Leavitt had been booked for the segment weeks in advance, billed as a chance to spotlight her rising influence in conservative politics. Instead, the segment ended up being clipped into 90-second viral soundbites, exactly the kind of sensationalism Leavitt had accused Colbert of fostering. By midday, both sides issued statements. Leavitt's team posted a video response on her official X account, filmed in a quiet hotel room. Sitting stiffly in front of an American flag backdrop, she declared, "Greater than, I will never apologize for standing up for my values. Last night, I was disrespected, mocked, and subjected to vulgar insinuations on national television. I chose not to participate in that sham any longer. Americans deserve serious conversations, not late-night ambushes." The clip went viral within hours, shared widely in conservative circles, where it was hailed as refreshingly unapologetic. Colbert, meanwhile, kept his response brief. During the opening monologue of the following night's show, he cracked a single joke. "Greater than, Karoline Leavitt left my show early. Which is fine, most of my guests stay until the commercial break, but hey, at least she beat the traffic." The audience roared with laughter, but his silence beyond the joke only fueled further speculation. Media analysts debated the optics endlessly. Some argued that Leavitt's storm-off proved she couldn't withstand scrutiny outside her echo chambers. Others claimed Colbert had crossed a line, using humor as a weapon rather than a bridge. What was undeniable, though, was the impact. Leavitt's name recognition skyrocketed overnight. Cable news networks invited her to recount her version of events. Conservative radio shows cast her as a warrior against liberal, gotcha culture, and even skeptics admitted that she had successfully forced herself into the center of the national conversation. For Stephen Colbert, it was another night of late-night headlines, a bump in the ratings, more clips for YouTube, more buzz in the news cycle. For Karoline Leavitt, it was a gamble. She had traded dignity for defiance, silence for spectacle. Whether the gamble would elevate her career, or haunt her as a defining blunder, remained to be seen. In the days that followed, the clip of Karoline Leavitt's storm-off didn't just dominate late-night chatter, it began reshaping the conversation around her entire political brand. What had started as a late-night comedy interview spiraled into a cultural flashpoint, drawing lines in the sand between supporters and detractors. On conservative talk radio, Leavitt was lionized. One nationally syndicated host declared, "She had the guts to walk away from the liberal media trap. That's leadership. That's strength. She didn't back down, she walked out." Political action committees quietly tested ads that spliced footage of her walking off stage with bold text, "Unshaken. Unafraid. Unstoppable." Grassroots supporters echoed the sentiment. At rallies and town halls, audiences now greeted her with chants of, "Walk away," a phrase that became both slogan and symbol. Conservative merch stores wasted no time printing T-shirts with her exit photo under the words, "Stormed off, still standing." But the backlash was equally fierce. Liberal commentators painted her as thin-skinned and unprepared. The New York Times ran an op-ed titled, "If you can't handle Colbert, can you handle Congress?" The Washington Post editorial board argued that her walk-off demonstrated a troubling inability to engage with opposing viewpoints. Even some moderates on the right quietly admitted that storming out might have hurt her credibility with undecided voters. Meanwhile, Colbert's ratings spiked. The walk-off segment became one of the most viewed clips in his show's recent history. CBS executives, while not thrilled about the controversy, recognized the viral goldmine they'd stumbled into. Late night thrives on unpredictability, and Leavitt's departure delivered exactly that. Behind the scenes, Leavitt's advisors debated strategy. Some urged her to capitalize on the moment, booking more confrontational media appearances to reinforce her image as a fighter. Others cautioned restraint, warning that doubling down on theatrics could reduce her to a viral personality, rather than a serious political contender. Leavitt herself leaned into the fight. She posted a fiery video message on Instagram, directly addressing Colbert's audience. "Greater than, if you laughed when I walked off, that's fine. But remember, comedy won't pay your bills. Jokes won't keep your family safe. I'm not here to entertain elites in New York studios. I'm here to fight for everyday Americans." The video amassed millions of views, though it also drew ridicule from comedians who gleefully parodied her earnest delivery. Saturday Night Live even aired a sketch featuring a fictionalized version of Leavitt walking off increasingly ridiculous talk shows, Jeopardy!, The Price is Right, even Sesame Street. Yet through all the noise, one truth emerged: Leavitt had seized the spotlight. Her name recognition soared, her fundraising spiked, and her social media following exploded. What had seemed like a public relations disaster transformed into a rallying cry for her base. As for Stephen Colbert, he carried on with his trademark grin, occasionally tossing in a sly callback to the incident. "We've got a great guest tonight," he joked weeks later, "and don't worry, I bolted the chairs to the floor just in case." The audience laughed, the ratings held steady, and late night moved on. But for Karoline Leavitt, the storm-off was more than a TV moment, it was a defining test. To her supporters, it proved she wasn't afraid to clash with liberal institutions. To her critics, it showed she couldn't withstand the heat. To the rest of America, it left a lingering question: was she the future of a new conservative movement, or just another politician who mistook spectacle for substance? Only time, and the next stage she walked onto, would answer that.